Hi, folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is session number 336. Surprise! This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we go, once again, little surprise bonus episode for you today. Hope it is a pleasant surprise. This is a conversation between me and my good friend Andy Hart, who many of you will know, of course, as the presenter and founder of the Maven Money podcast. So Andy and I, thanks to the success of our respective shows, we're noticing a pattern in the way people are getting in touch with us, wanting to work with us as professional financial planners, and we're a little bit concerned, okay? So we've been having a bit of a WhatsApp conversation back and forth about this, and so we thought, you know what, let's just book a time, hit record and talk about it. Did a little bit of prep first, Andy more than me, if I'm honest. But hopefully it'll give you a flavor of the sorts of things that we're starting to see and why we're worried about it, right? So I hope you're going to enjoy this conversation. Usual drill, this podcast continues to be brought to you by my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been helping me out here since the spring of 2011, for which I'm extremely grateful. So please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk, and don't forget the Meaningful Money branded investment platform that they've built. All the information you need to know about that is at meaningfulmoney.tv/podcast-invest. Now, yeah, we're concerned. We're concerned that folks are applying a little bit of knowledge, right? That's the sort of working title for this episode. They're applying this little bit of knowledge to their finances and ending up potentially in a worse mess than if they'd done nothing. But worse, they often don't know that they're in a mess. That's the problem. I'll comment a little bit more just to kind of round things off at the end. But for now, I hope that you enjoy this conversation with my good buddy Andy Hart on the Maven Money podcast. Remember, notes and links and stuff, all at the show notes, meaningfulmoney.tv/session336. meaningfulmoney.tv/session336 is my conversation with Andy Hart. Okay, welcome to kind of an over-the-shoulder sneak peek, fly on the wall kind of a deal, being the conversation between me and the mighty Andy Hart, the Maven advisor. How you doing, bud?
I reserve those words for you, Pete. You are the mighty Pete Matthew.
Yeah, no, I always think you're talking about my weight when you say that.
Your aura, it's your aura, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a dual show, isn't it? So it's going to be on the Meaningful Money podcast and also the Maven Money podcast. Yeah, so it's a bit of a behind the scenes ish. We're going to talk about our experience with being approached by various clients. Pretty much the success of this podcast, really.
Exactly.
Or both podcasts.
Yeah, and we've kind of identified some patterns, haven't we? And some keywords that keep coming up, because you and I are both committed to putting out decent information, to adding to the weight of good, solid, usable information about personal finance. But we're noticing that actually sometimes that can be counterproductive. So our sort of working title for this conversation is a little bit of knowledge, ...
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Or the mess of your own making financially.
Cool. So those of you that listen to both of us will know that Andy doesn't pull any punches, and I tend to be the soft, squishy one that's sort of nice about these things. So this is going to be a good conversation, but this is something that I've been dealing with for a while, but you're becoming more aware of more recently. So why don't you just maybe attempt to sort of summarize what this trend is?
Yeah. So this is coming from a good place. You know, it's the price of success with our personal finance podcast. So you've been dealing with this for a while. It's a first world business problem. But we thought, there's enough material to put out there to highlight a few things to people and to, I suppose, mention it now before people get themselves in this mess. So you have been approached by clients for ages, 5-6 years or something. I've been approached by quite a lot of clients recently. So out of the personal finance podcasts out there and professional practicing advisors, our podcasts seem to be, attracting quite a lot of people, which is great. And the podcast format is in its infancy.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an issue that's going to sort of snowball. So we get approached by clients and they have a suitcase of misconceptions that they then slowly unpack as they talk to us. And again, it's another thing with not just personal finance clients, personal finance podcast listeners, people in general, they think the situation is quite unique. But as professional advisors, we have seen all of the parts before, but collectively it's unique. And they often say, my situation is quite unique, Andy. My situation is quite unique, Pete. And here are the reasons why. And we've often heard all of the parts before, maybe not in the same order, and collectively it is unique. But very rarely do we come across something that's genuinely unique that we think, oh, actually, this is really unique here.
Yeah.
And then they start unpacking their, suitcase of misconceptions. And then I've experienced where they say, your podcast's great, Pete podcast is great, and we've learned so much. We're just not sure if we need an advisor though. So then they're questioning the value of ongoing advice. So that again is another thing that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
I believe I can help every client that wants to be helped. But at the moment, the world is telling them that they can do this on their own, and they don't need, great coaching. As a cheesy saying, great coaching is like a time machine. It gets you to where you want to go way quicker.
Yeah, sure.
And again, I've experienced this as a professional advisor and coach myself to people, and I also have a lot of coaches and mentors that I employ. So I know how useful coaching, accountability, strategic thinking partner, all the good stuff is. So that's where I'm sort of coming to it from. So over to you, mate. You've been dealing with this for way more than me. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Because I've spent the best part of 10 years now telling people that they can do a lot of this stuff on their own. And just in sort of a bit of preamble between you and me before we hit record here, we agreed people can do this on their own to an extent. So they can.
Sure.
Set up a budget. They can get out of debt, but it's hard to do it on your own. As somebody who's perennially trying to lose weight, it's hard to do it on your own. That's why you get the success of, for me, I have a coach, and even going to your sort of Slimming World type things, or AA meetings, if that's your particular vice. Do you know what I mean? There is strength in drawing from the strength and experience of others. So while people can do it themselves, it's harder. And you have mentioned before, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And that really is the power and the benefit of advice. It is an acceleration factor. It's more likely to make stuff stick factor, and more likely, you just used the phrase, strategic thinking, which is a lot easier to do in concert with a professional rather than just on your own, because we generally suck at sort of assessing our own thoughts in the moment with any degree of rationality. We are by definition irrational, and having somebody else to speak into that is clearly a benefit. You'd agree, right?
Yeah, we look for the easy out, don't we? So we're not harsh enough on ourselves, but we also have this DIY culture. You can service your own boiler, you can clean your own house, you can diagnose your own diseases via Google. But you get to a certain point, certainly with finances, when you have what I call expensive questions. It's very hard to answer these expensive questions, on your own as such. So that is the is one of the issues. Over to you.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And there's, you probably can change the windscreen wiper on your car after watching a YouTube video.
Well, depends on what the car make is.
yeah, for sure. But there's some things that you can do, but there are degrees with this. You cannot do your own vascular surgery, and you cannot, I'm hesitant to use the word because I know it raises visceral feelings in you. You probably can't optimize your own route to financial success.
But again, it's the world is telling people that they can do this on their own. Just because you've heard that, it doesn't mean that then it applies to you. I've heard you can become a billionaire. It doesn't mean then it's going to happen. Just because you hear something that it's possible and maybe even probable, you still then need to do a lot of work to achieve that. And why would financial life success be an easy thing that you can just grasp on your own? Just because you've listened to a few podcasts, you've read a couple of blogs, you're into FIRE. It's just these are just go-to words that people sort of just grab onto, and then they think, I could just do this on my own.
Sure.
But I've read a Tube advert that says you don't need a financial advisor. Cut your fees in half and do it all on your own. No, double your fees and get some help. I don't understand the thinking behind it.
We're winding him up, folks. We're winding him up, and we're going to set him off.
It's an interesting time for it. So, so that's that. So we then thought, let's now drill down in the detail, put some meat to the bones.
Yeah.
Let's go through a typical client that has a little bit of knowledge, that's in a bit of a mess of their own doing because they had a little bit of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And what's the sort of typical things they say to us? This is very much tongue-in-cheek, and it comes from a place of warmth.
Definitely.
And it's a very exaggerated client, but we'll give it a go. And chip in when you want, Pete.
I will, don't worry.
Hi, Pete and Andy. I hope you're well. Love the podcast.
Great start.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, and sometimes they say, I will leave a review because I'm very, strict. If you're going to email me, you best have left a review. They still don't. Andy, love the podcast. I'll leave a review when I get round to it. I just thought I'd send you a cheeky question. Okay. So, love the podcast, guys. I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, God.
First red flag in a nice way. It's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
I'm out of debt. I mean, you did mention it. There are things you can do on your own. You can get out of debt on your own, but it's not easy. You can start to invest on your own. But, I suppose it is easy, but some people still don't do it. So there are a lot of things you can do, but it's mainly, going down the route of personal development, having the right mindset, getting some of the principles in place. That is the more important thing than the nuts and bolts of it. That can come later on, as long as you've got the, foundation blocks in place. So back to our fictitious client. I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm out of debt. I now need to plan for my future. Here's the first line. I'm happy managing my investments on my own. Now, where on earth have they got that from? I don't know.
Probably from me.
Probably from you. That's fine. So we'll move on. Like investment management is simple.
Yeah.
The Vanguard. Oh yeah, because that's the answer. It's an answer to someone. That might not be the answer to you, and you're not smart enough to decipher what the wisdom is for you. Anyway, okay,
that's an important point, which I dare say we'll riff on a little bit, but it's applying it to individual specific situations, which are utterly unique. And the whole point of a podcast, of course, is that it's broadcast information. So we can put out some basic principles and some universal principles.
Yes.
But as soon as you overlay the individuality of a particular circumstance, that's when potentially those universal principles might need tweaking.
Exactly that. So I'm happy managing my investments on my own. Again, where they got that from. Here's the next kicker. I've brought some properties, but they aren't doing that well.
I'm smiling about every other email. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I have 3, and one of them is in a limited company.
Yep. Happens all the time. That email comes a lot.
Because that's, what we have to do now. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just saying that they're in this situation now.
Sometimes they get that place, they get an accountant saying that, or, you definitely need to do this.
Again, there's blogs, there's podcasts, there's accountants, there's newspapers, but it's not, they're not peddling wisdom. They're just peddling information for the time.
A little bit of knowledge.
And then next up, we're going to get back to the property. We're not done the property yet. Well, by any stretch. The next thing they'll say is insurance. What, do I need insurance?
Yeah.
They think they don't. That's an extra cost.
Yeah,
Why would you want to insure yourself against bad surprises? Life will never throw you a bad surprise. If you don't have the right insurance in place, your financial plan before you start investing is built on sand.
Absolutely, it can be washed
away.
away.
A lot of advisors are strict on this. I've over the years disengaged some clients because they're not taking out income protection.
Yeah, it's so important. It can be washed away in an instant.
I'm not going to be co-pilot, to a sinking ship.
Yeah, true.
You could just imagine it.
It's non-negotiable.
Next on this example client, I'm not quite sure if I need ongoing advice, because they're, naturally rational. The next thing,
deceived but rational. Yeah, okay.
Deceived but rational, yeah. Because I saw an advert on the train that said I don't need a financial advisor.
Really? Does such a thing exist? I'm a long way from the tube.
You don't need your father's financial advisor or your mother's financial advisor. You can just do it all on your own online. No help needed. I've just recently, this is with a fictitious client, I've just recently paid £3,000 for a currency trading course. However, I don't have enough time really to commit to it. Oh, because if you did, you'd be a multi-millionaire, just like the guy or girl who sold you the recent course.
For $3,000, yeah.
For $3,000.
Yeah.
I've also invested in XYZ, fill in the blank for
Could
the
be
latest
anything. Peer-to-peer.
now, which is looking a bit shaky.
Yeah.
Whatever shaky. Shaky means you're going to lose your money.
Potentially, yeah.
There's going to be a blow up. Potentially, yeah. A high chance. Next up, they'll say, I'm into fire. Which is great. Again, massive proponents of the fire movement.
Absolutely, me too.
But again, they've just got the building blocks of that and then not implemented it. They've not learned it. They've not unlearned it. They've not lived it. They've not, but anyway, they're into fire. I've read a few blogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, great. I listen to Pete Matthews' podcast. I listen to my whatever they say on the podcast influence, which is great. I have 6 online accounts. I don't want all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, diversification's a good thing.
They're all invested with the same fund manager. I get 6 statements at random different times. Sorry, have I moved address yet? No, I haven't. Is it going to be easy with the 6 accounts? How much do you have in each 6? Oh, I've got 400 in that one. I've got 1,200 in that. I mean, filling their life up with administration.
Yep.
And finally, asset allocation. Oh, I'm medium.
Everybody's medium, are they?
They're all medium. Yeah, of course. Everyone's just medium.
Yeah. Where do you sit on a scale of 1 to 10? 5? Maybe a 6?
Where do you sit on a scale of 1 to 10? Yeah. So that's our fictitious client. They also say, sorry, we've missed the key word, Pete, that you alluded to earlier. Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
I'm looking to optimize my investments or my something. So they think financial success is a science. They're looking for optimal solutions where it's more temperamental and behavioral based.
So, I mean, in the favor of the fictitious person who sent this somewhat exaggerated email, at least they are, surely that then is a glimmer of hope that they think, okay, I understand, or I think I understand the sort of general rules, but the very concept of optimizing surely is I need to make sure that it's optimized for me and my situation. So that's surely a positive thing, isn't it?
Well, no, they think that financial and life success is a science and it's more of an art.
Okay.
That's the way I see it. There isn't this optimal answer. If you are 69.2% in global equities and the other 22.24% in value company.
Yeah.
It don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
The optimal solution is don't sweat the small stuff. The optimal solution is the one that you're going to stick to.
Yeah.
How much should I be investing, Andy and Pete, for the optimal answer?
As much as possible.
More.
Yeah.
How much? More. How much you investing at the moment? £500. Oh, you should invest 1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't. I can only do 700. We'll do that then. Nice. Is that optimal? No, but it's the one you're going to stick to.
Yeah.
They don't realize it's a behavioral game. It's a charade. You need to play these games with yourself to take action.
What should be the difference in weight between my pension and my ISA contributions?
Yeah, that rocks up quite a bit as well.
All the time. Yeah.
And
there is no optimal answer.
There's no optimal, and it's the intention of the money. And again, I answer myself that same question. I am not yet all in on pensions because I need the money outside of my pensions for access reasons, for business reasons of buying houses.
Perfect.
When I have my final house and there's no reason to build up excess capital outside, I will be all in on my pensions as my clients get to that point. And I'm like, right now, the optimal answer is all in on your pension because you don't need your money elsewhere, and the tax breaks and all bang. But yeah, you're right. It's ever evolving, isn't it? So that's, we help people with all of their transitions.
Most people ask the pension versus ISA question are way too early in their journey to ask that. And it's like, just get your employer match and pile the rest into ISAs because you're going to need accessible money.
Yeah, right? Maximizing your free money at work, put everything in an ISA. Yeah. If you realise you made a mistake later on, just transfer it all from the ISA to the pension. Yeah. Rock and roll.
Job done.
But again, that's wisdom that they're looking for. What a long-winded answer. Again, it's a bit of a charade. It's a delaying tactic. It's resistance. It's fear. It's all the other stuff that we talk about.
So happy managing investments on their own. So you and I, are on the same page in terms of equities of the growth engine, all that sort of thing. I've had a couple of different people on my show recently. Lars Kroyer, very much global equities, a little bit of gilt to temper it if you need to. I've had Andrew Craig on the show, the week that we're recording this actually, who advocates higher allocation to commodities than most people, maybe 20% of commodities for inflation hedging and
shoot me.
And down. Well, I know. Yeah, right, there's plenty of ways to skin this cat, but he's
I've had so much information on this from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and I'm going to agree with those guys. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh my God. I think I've listened to 15 years of the Berkshire Hathaway annual general meeting now. I'm catching up. Sorry, mate. Carry on.
Yeah. No. So, the happy managing my investments on their own is something they'll very often say. But again, it isn't about the investment mix, is it?
No. We're not managing the money. We're managing the owners of said money.
Well, you've nailed this in the name of one of your many brands, which is yes. The brand helping advisors understand that this is about managing humans, not assets.
Yes, definitely that. Definitely that. Do we want to talk about what I have in my client agreement when I talk about optimal setup?
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I've basically put this into my client agreement because the optimal solution is never around. Tax changes all the time. So I've put this together. I'll read through it sort of word for word. The UK financial regulations and tax environment are hyper complex. The rules can be complementary, conflicting, and are in constant flux. At any given day, it could probably be argued that there's the perfect financial and tax position to hold. To continually work to this exacting standard would require a constant workflow, which would include opening new accounts with new providers, switching investment tax wrappers, investing styles, and would become a logistical and advice nightmare. We will endeavour to position and structure your finances with the present day in mind. However, also create long-term, practical, workable, and enjoyable planning strategies. To conclude, the perfect structure won't be the perfect structure for long. Chasing perfection is a surefire way to spend your entire life anxious and filled with administration for what may seem an advantage, but in reality is a disadvantage.
I love that. And I love it particularly. Chasing perfection is a surefire way to spend your entire life anxious and filled with administration. Both those two things are guaranteed to lead to bad behavior, aren't they? Anxiety and stress about admin. So,
and do I need to change it again? And is there a better optimal solution around the corner?
And without somebody to say, no, you don't need to do
stress.
That. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Forget it. Don't sweat the small stuff and just do it. I am so with clients around that. I'm the last line of defense. The world is telling them that the world's getting worse and everyone needs to be concerned and XYZ's happening and fill in the blank, the end of the world. No, just don't stress about stuff. There's a few things we need to do, but I'm relentless optimist. And again, what price is having someone you can pick up the phone and they're a relentless optimist?
I know. Yeah.
Priceless.
Well,
Andy, what about this? Don't worry about it. Get on with your day.
Exactly.
Enjoy looking up for the grandkids. I mean, seriously.
Totally. I have an email this morning from a client who their mortgage deal is up. So this is actually the daughter of a long-standing client, and their mortgage deal is up next year. And the words, I can't remember the exact words, but it's basically, I'll need to talk about what to do then, because by then, we'll be right in the midst of the fallout from Brexit. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with
your
mortgage deal
down, if anything.
But how much mental energy is she expending on that? And why is that even a factor for her? Answer, because she's bombarded with that message from every conceivable source, many of which she puts a whole load of weight on. All right? But she's paying me to say, please don't worry about Brexit. It is a sideshow.
Don't worry. Yeah, it is a sideshow. Yeah, exactly that. There was another point. I've slightly forgotten it. But yeah, okay. So what we're going to move on to next? Are we going to talk about the property situation in a bit more detail? So
yeah, why not? Because property is a big part. The number of clients that I get approach me, and basically they are so all in on property, they have very little latitude to do any real planning. So you've sort of again on the emails that we get sent, you've picked up a few threads and you've nicely exaggerated them for effect. So let's pick up on that.
Yeah, so this is because so I'm an ex-mortgage broker, I'm a property investor, I'm a professional financial advisor. So there's nobody better positioned to understand where real wealth is created. And it is created from only two places. And the definition of a real asset class for grown-ups is one that provides a rising income and a rising capital value. And I believe the only two that do that is physical property. The rent increases, the capital value increases. It's a mini business, that's a separate point. And global equities. The dividends rise over time because companies make profits, you still buy stuff, and the capital value goes up. Every other investment asset class, I believe, is a distraction. There's only two, physical property and global equities. So there's a lot of information around properties out there, property podcasts, property blogs. Yep. So people do, and we have, again, I'm not making a prediction here. I believe at some point we're going to exit the golden age of property investment because of the growth we've had over the last X decades, and the tax position was so kind, and the initial buying cost was so low. You know, and I worked with and helped create lots of property millionaires in my previous mortgage broking days. So again, I've seen it, I've experienced it. You know, I'm pro property. I believe it is slightly changing now with the much more cost to acquire, so the increase in capital outlay, and then the ongoing costs when it comes to the high rate taxpayers and the new rules coming in. So put that aside. So people are, but we're insiders. So I'm spotting that property is not all it's cracked up to be potentially now going forward. That still doesn't mean I'm going to be out of it, and I'm probably going to acquire more. So I'm pro property, but people are not seeing it from that angle. They're just hearing you can make money from property, simple, easy. All they've got to do is go online, buy it once. It manages itself, passive income in property. Anyway, we'll put that aside. Sometimes it's passive, sometimes it's passive. So the typical client that will approach us has got themselves a little bit of knowledge around property. They're frequently got a full-time job. You know, I semi-retired at 27, as I say, when I decided to take that sort of view. Anyway, I've got some time. So when there's any issues with my properties, I can sort of deal with them. I dread to think how, I mean, I've got full management as well, but I dread to think how people with full-time, demanding jobs dabble in the property space. So back to our fictitious example client. They'll say, Pete, I've got 3 properties. I've got one in a Scottish town that I had never heard of before I bought it. And I went there once on a Saturday. We were quite rushed, but the agent said it seems like a decent buy. That one sort of not really made any money or at all, really. I'm not too quite sure about that one. The other one I've bought, which I put into a limited company, and I don't quite understand that, and the accountant's not very helpful with me there. I was expecting them to be a bit more proactive. I'm only paying them £40 a month. And the other one inside the limited company, this I've bought in a fill-in-the-blank...
Yeah, East Yorkshire town.
Okay, I'm pleased you said Yorkshire.
Well, I'm from Yorkshire, I can say that.
Okay, yeah, you can offend your
countryman,
your hometown. But I bought that one in a place where there's going to be a new rail link. I think it's going to be completed in 2050. Great. I didn't quite realise the work involved. Oh, and I've also bought a HMO. I didn't know what HMO was, but I bought one in... Oh, the HMO must have been such a great deal to sell it to someone who has no idea and is not an insider in the property game. Oh yeah, I've got this fantastic HMO, Pete. It's an absolute, it's an absolute dream. Oh, it just passive income. It goes up every year. Oh, the tenants are an absolute dream. Would you like to buy it? Why would anyone sell a fantastic asset, minimal cost of capital, maximum income, and minimal hassle factor?
Mm-hmm.
When you're not an insider in the property business, there's been about 13 people that have said no to that deal.
Yeah.
For you to rock up and be the 14th and go, oh, it actually stacks up on paper, you know it's going to be a nightmare. So, yeah, I've got a HMO in, again, fill in the blank. Oh, it's a new hospital's been built near whereverville. But the HMO is not working.
In inverted commas, quotes, not working.
Why is it not working? And then 14 minutes later, you know, they've explained to you how the property business works. Yeah. You go, yeah, that's how the property business works.
And how long they've held it for.
And how long they've held it for. And I say, oh, you don't understand the buy and hold situation where you hold a property for multi-decades. Yeah. And after X years, it doubles and then you can extract some capital out of it. Then it becomes a wealth fountain. You can then buy another wealth fountain. That's how the property business works. You know, patience is a superpower. That's how you create wealth in the property business. Mm-hmm. So that's their situation with property. Over to you about property, Pete. You must have heard this many times.
Many times. And you think, well, it's just not working. It's not going very well, my property empire. And it's like, okay,
yes.
You know, how long have you had that HMO? Well, 9 months, and it's just not working. You think, man, you're not even out of the gate yet. You know, property. I mean, you're right, and I never shy away from saying that it's a brilliant asset class. So we have a weird relationship with it here in the UK, which arguably is, I think, sometimes unhealthy, but it serves a purpose, and it's been proven countless times, obviously, that it's a brilliant wealth-building asset class. But it is hard work. All right?
And it's a mini business.
It is. Well, yeah, you use that phrase, and that's right. So, you know, any business that you're not involved with pretty frequently is going to fall apart. And so it's really important that you understand that it's going to take work, it's going to take input, and it emphatically is not passive income.
And as an amateur, great deals are not going to land on your table.
No. The pros are looking for that. They're the ones who are doing it full time.
The pros have discarded it. Yeah. 10 pros have discarded it. True. Then you rock up. I used to be an estate agent. When there was a great deal, I had a list in my drawer of 14 people that would buy it in 5 seconds, let alone putting it on the internet, let alone, you know, by the time it was like, oh, you know, random punter, that looks like a good deal. Yeah. These guys and girls have all said no. The 14 experts that I called in order.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's... And you need to understand that about property. It's like you can dabble, but dabbling ain't going to make you wealthy ultimately. And too many people dabble and then get disheartened and then try and exit. But that's a behavioral issue. And it's a lack of understanding that it's buy and hold and it's multi-decade, as you've said. And again, we come back to human behavior.
I think you can dabble. I think you can buy a decent apartment in a decent city if you've got, you know, excess of cash flow and you put a deposit down and you get some professional tenants in there and you just leave it. You get someone to manage it, full management, and then it's going to be a hands-off approach. Within X amount of years, it will have increased by X, and you can, you know, draw some money out of it again, and, you know, keep the process going. But you're not going to trade in and out and buying HMOs in low-value areas. And again, it's their easy entry. So yeah, it's various ways to. Again, we're pro this asset class, but we see, back to a little bit of knowledge, the mess of your own making, which is what this podcast is called. Be very careful going into the property business thinking it's the panacea. Yeah. You know, again, I have properties and then I have pensions and ISAs. I get absolutely no contact from my pensions and ISAs. You know, there's no hassle factor in the pensions and ISAs. It just, you know, naturally goes up as the markets do. It is, I go constantly like, why property? Why property? It's so much less hassle just having, you know, online accounts with, you know, the great businesses of the world.
Yeah,
anyway.
Totally. So, you know, these are, again, you know, some of these are sort of slightly exaggerated, but we're starting to, we are hearing this all the time. And this is just kind of a plea to not drift or fall into a mess of your own making by understanding a little, dabbling, wishing you had a bit more support from your accountant, but not being prepared to find the accountant that's properly knowledgeable in this stuff, and not being prepared to invest the time to learn this stuff. You can't have it both ways. There's so much that you can do on your own, but a lot that you can't. And that's
Well, let's
where
take an extreme example of this. So this fictitious client of ours has ended up with 6 online accounts because they don't want a financial advisor. They've ended up with 3 properties, one in a limited company. They're in a mess.
Yeah.
Let's say their neighbor that just said, you know what, I'm not going to listen to personal finance podcasts or property podcasts. I'm just going to put the money all into a cash account just for the moment, just to chill out. They've been doing that for 3, 4, 5 years. Now they're in a position, they've got no hassle in their life whatsoever. The phone is not going with any annoyance. They're not getting loads of stuff sent to them via email, via the post. They're not in a mess. And then they say, you know what, I'm now going to go and see a financial advisor with this cash and I'm going to listen to what they say to do. Would they potentially end up in a better position? Probably would do.
Yeah, probably would.
Maybe. Again, we're just riffing with it.
Yeah. But you have, we've sort of said, and I know I've said, there's a lot of this that you can do on your own, right?
Definitely.
But I know that you are sort of rewording a lot of stuff on your website in sort of response to some of this, almost as an apologetic for what we do, and not a justification because that sounds a little bit desperate, but almost a treatise, and say this is what a financial planner can do for you, and will justify their fees many times over. But you've worded it almost in the opposite sense to say, look, if you can do all this, then go for it. But we can help you.
Yeah,
so let's just go through those.
I put a few things together about that. So let's say you go to a homepage of a financial advisor's, mine, yours, whatever, and you look at it, and the first thing says, you can do this on your own if you can. So you don't need us if you can. And then here's a bullet point list of if you can do all of this. So you don't need us if you can. Build your own financial plan using sophisticated financial planning software, taking into account historical assumptions, financial rules, taxation, and uncertainty. Updating this with all of your life changes, including your life and financial goals and life transitions. Point number 1.
So important.
Next point.
Who could do that? I mean, how long have you and I...
Who could do that? No one.
How long have you and I been doing that day in, day out for our clients and are continually learning? The next client, the next client comes along, you think, you know what? I don't know that I've ever had to model that before, but I know how.
It's not just the modeling it, Pete. A client might ask us a question, and again, an intelligent person would say, I don't know the answer. Let me think about that. A financial advisor goes away. I think, who knows this? Who out of my world of advisors I know, of 500 or however many I know, would know this? And I might say, Pete, do you know anyone that deals in limited company, French chateau, whatever the weird and wacky thing that's come up? And you go, do you know what? I do. Call, Sarah in Birmingham. And I say, I'll call her. And then I call her, then she tells me to call him. And so a client's asked one question that's a shallow question, but probably got a deep answer. So then I go off, I speak to 4 or 5 different financial advisors, and then I come up and I say, the answer is no. Or the answer is yes.
Exactly.
They don't realize how much intellectual capital of me, all of my professionals, has gone into coming up with that answer. So you're right. It's the modeling of it, but also it's the answering of questions as well.
Well, this week you and I have had exactly that conversation. I was asked a question by a client I didn't know the answer to. I reached out. You came back and said, I can help you with that. We had a conversation. We chewed the fat for 5 minutes. I went back to the client with what I believe is a definitive answer. And
exactly.
But there's between you and I, 40 years of combined financial planning experience? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Well, it might not be that much. I'm 21 years. How long have you been doing this? You're younger than me.
I'm a financial services lifer. I've been in financial services 16 years, advising clients for about 10, financial planning before that. More, whatever. 40 years between us of money. Of being in the money business, which is the human nature business. So 40 years in the human nature business.
Yeah. So with what price then? That's what price? The simple answer to that question for that client. Deeply valuable.
Yeah, exactly. The next up. So if you can be a critical thinking partner to yourself and ask yourself the hard questions. First of all, you need to know the hard questions. That again is, so if you can be a critical thinking partner to yourself, again, you don't need us. If you can hold yourself accountable and not let yourself slip, this is key and crucial.
This is everything, isn't it?
And me being a behavioral financial advisor, caring, considerate financial advisor to my clients, I still can't get, in the nicest sense, these buggers to do the best things for their future selves. I have clients that, I've just come into some extra money. and I say, all right, okay, well, I'm going to increase your contributions to XYZ. I don't hear from them because they want the easy out. And I say, look, I'm going to continue to say this to you. You know, I think this is one of the reasons why I've been put on this planet, to get you to save as much as you can for your future self. And even me, knowing how much I know about this business and how sort of persuasive I am on email and phone, and they still will go quiet. People want the easy out. Yeah. I got another client who's just come into a property that he didn't think he'd be coming into, and he's going to be renting out, money coming in. I'm going to say, look, we need to redirect all of this. This is all new money. You know, you're not going to readjust your lifestyle. We'll redirect all of it over here. How successful am I going to be to redirect all of that? On their own, how much of that was they redirected?
Not
minimal,
much, probably.
Minimal to none. With me involved, we're going to have this charade. He or she is going to say, I want to pay X. And I go, where's that number come from? I say, I think you should pay Y. Okay, we'll agree on Z. You know, example.
Life's a compromise. But being a critical thinking partner to yourself is not possible.
No.
It's just not possible. There is nobody who can apply pure rational logic to their own unique situation.
Yeah. I'd argue Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett do, but they still have each other.
Exactly.
So they each have the best critical thinking partner in the world.
Can you imagine? What a place to be. Well, that's why they've done so well, right?
But again, even us, we understand that. So back to these clients as well. So, you know, a great client for us, Pete, that we deal with, which is our classic clients, they come to us and say, I need help.
Yes.
They say, they don't say it, but they implicitly say, I don't have a clue what you're talking about about the FIRE movement. No, Andy, I've not read Nudge. And I don't know what asset allocation means. Help me. They're great clients.
Yeah, of course.
But the clients we're talking about today come to us and say, I'm into FIRE.
Yeah.
I've read Nudge. I know what asset allocation is. But they're actually got themselves into a worse position than the clients say, help. Haven't read Nudge, haven't known about FIRE. So it's interesting.
A little bit of knowledge. A little bit of knowledge. Dangerous.
So nudging on. So you need to hold yourself. Yeah, sorry, I mentioned hold yourself accountable, not let yourself slip. Again, be strict on yourself for saving for your future self, which is very hard. Next up, understand how investment management works. Knowing where the returns come from, the factors involved, the changes that may or may not happen, and the companies to use. You need to spend a few thousand hours on investment management. Anyone that says they've nailed investment management, they've spent a few thousand hours on it. Most importantly, they need to learn investment management. Critically, they need to unlearn. The key with investment management success is unlearning, but there's no shortcut. You need to spend a few thousand hours. You need to unlearn most of what you've learned, and then you're left with the essence. So if you can do that, again, you don't need us.
So devil's advocate then, is it not acceptable to just buy Vanguard Life Strategy?
It potentially is, yes. But again, we don't manage money, we manage people. But so from a purely, is the fund range of Vanguard Life Strategy good? Yeah, they are fantastic. You know, I did a podcast, the two greatest investment inventions ever. Number one was the index fund. Number two was the packaging of the index fund. So like a Vanguard Life Strategy.
So you and I both preach that. But again, it's not investment management as such or as much as behavioral management, isn't it? So you got to understand this stuff.
Yeah. And again, I know the FIRE movement is very, big in America, VTSEX, by the, Vanguard Total Stock Index. Yeah, that's great. But you still, just because you've heard that, it doesn't mean that you can do that and then you'll be absolutely fine. You might be, you might not be, but there's a lot more to it. And the ones that preach, just do that. Yeah. The ones that preach, just do that, VTSEX, they've spent thousands of hours. They've read The Intelligent Investor. They've done all those weird and wacky things that you have to do when you come into the investment world.
Yeah. And will it still be okay in a 40% drawdown, though? Market drawdown.
Well, when we have a deep temporary decline, how will they react? That's then the behavioural issue. Yeah. So, they might have ended up with the right fund, but then are they going to stick with the right fund? Sticking to the plan is the hardest thing you can ever do. That's all we do every single bloody time with our clients. Yeah. We build the perfect setup and structure day one.
Yeah.
The rest of our time is telling them, stick to it.
Absolutely.
What about now, Pete and Andy? Nothing's changed. Stick to it. What
I
about
know.
now? Nothing's changed.
Every single review with the client, not going to change anything. Why? Because we set it up right to start with.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. You have to know how to insure yourself and your family. You need to know what your human capital is.
Explain that term, Andy.
Well, so people are trying to achieve, let's say, financial independence, which is living off an income that they don't have to work for the rest of their lives as such. So building up enough capital that you don't need to, earn an income and, get over the financial finish line. So understanding your human capital is before you've reached financial independence, you have a human. The number one entry on your balance sheet, your net worth, should be your human capital. So when you start out as a 20-year-old into the workforce, you have a zero net worth, but your human capital is very high. You might start off a job with 20 grand a year, 30 grand a year, but you're going to be working for 40 years. So let's just keep it really simple. And you're on £10,000 a year for 40 years. That's a £400,000 your human capital is worth. Obviously it changes depending on your age, how long you've got to, you retire or whatever, and what your income is. So you, by being, productive out in the world, are going to get paid for your services. So that's your human capital. That has a value, and you need to ensure that if I get hit by a bus, you get hit by a bus, we have income protection that's going to replace our income, our future human capital, and sort of replace it to some degree. So getting the right insurances in place are very, very important. But you need to know what you're insuring. They think, oh, an insurance person is just trying to sell me something here. No. They're trying to do a good thing for you, and they're trying to ensure your human capital, which is the biggest asset you have on your personal balance sheet.
Absolutely, the basis.
Even at the moment, I'm 38, and my human capital is still definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, the number one entry on my net worth statement.
Sure.
And it will be for many years. I think it's probably going to be the case till I get to about 50 or 50 something.
It's not emphasized, is it, by the FIRE movement and by
they say in some ways it's an extra cost. They say they're self-insuring sometimes. No, you're self-insuring when you hit financial independence.
Yeah, sure, that's different.
But when you've got 12 years till you hit FI, you've got 12 years of whatever you're earning, that needs to be insured. Even if you take out some income protection with a shorter end date, it will still be dirt cheap. I call it insuring yourself against bad surprises. And getting hit by a bus is a bad surprise. An illness is a bad surprise. I don't know what you call it, Pete. What do you call it when you talk about insurance, like as a pillar?
Yeah, see, I'm not quite so good at you as coming up with pithy one-line or 2-word sort of names for things like human capital. I'm totally going to nick that. You haven't traded.
Well, I mean, I've stolen that. As I say, you steal from me, you're stealing twice, mate.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you call it human. I just tend to say, look, this is your ability to earn an income, easily your biggest asset. So I tend to call it protection, life protection, because even that's not great because it doesn't really talk about income, does it? So
but again, it's a sold product.
Yeah.
You have to really bang on about it and be passionate about it and know how important it is. I think I've asked a group of financial advisors before, how many of you in the room have got income protection? I was staggered.
Oh, I bet.
With the lack of hands going up. I'm like, you're selling income protection as this being one of the most important insurances, just behind life insurance if there's, kids and family and stuff, and you don't have it yourself. I'm just blown away by it. Yeah. And following on from that point, I'm invested in the exact same portfolios I'm telling my clients to invest in, the highest volatility one. I'm all in with my clients. How can you not be?
Oh, man.
It's so unauthentic.
Don't get me started on that. Absolutely right. I think that should be the law. Isn't that what the fiduciary
I think it should be the law. Yeah.
Isn't that what the fiduciary standard is in the States or something to that effect, isn't it? That wherever an advisor sort of tells their clients to put their money, they've got to put their own money.
I don't know, but certainly the bulk of it should be in it. I mean, you can have a bit of a fun account or something elsewhere, but certainly 60, 70+% of your life savings should be in the same makeup of portfolios you're telling your clients.
100% agree. I reckon I'd be interested to know what proportion of advisors follow that rule. Fractions.
I don't really know. I think it's so important. When I take on sometimes new clients and they've got a lot of questions around investments and the makeup of my portfolio, they're quite simple, but still for people that are quite new to it. And I sit down with them and say, just so you know, all of my money's in the same portfolio.
Yeah. And it's like, really?
Do we need to carry on this conversation?
Yeah, exactly. I'm putting my skin in
Sorry.
the game, so let's
Yeah,
do yours.
you had 14 questions about the makeup of the portfolios and the different percentage split. Like, I've agonized over that over there. We don't need to do that today. Just so you know, all my money's in the same portfolio. Sorry, the bulk of my money's in the same portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, so nudging on. So know what asset classes and financial instruments provide returns, and know which ones to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I'm a fan of two asset classes for grown-ups. They're the only ones that create multi-generational wealth: physical property and global equities, which are investing in the great businesses of the world. Again, I've had to make the mistakes. I've had to put in the research. I've had to unlearn to get to that conclusion. And I've spent a bit of time on something called the informed risk scale rather than the uninformed risk scale.
Okay.
Again, you need an advisor to help you out of that, but I'll nudge on from that. Next up, if you can, only focus on what's always worked and avoid anything which is working now. Again, you don't need us. The bulk of people, certainly with a little bit of knowledge, God, they end up with everything that's working now. How can you be a lover of personal finance and learn it in 2019 and not end up with a load of junk that some finance company has decided that is the flavor of the month? It would be physically, it would be almost impossible. Next up, you need to understand the flavors of risk, and you need to understand which financial dragons that you need to fight. There's three flavors of risk. One is loss of capital. One is loss of purchasing power, which is inflation. And the final one is volatility. They're the three flavors of risk. Everybody just thinks of risk and they use the word risk and they're talking about volatility. They haven't unpacked it. The word risk needs to be unpacked. So if you can unpack the word risk and know the three flavors of risk, then again, you don't need us. Next up, you have to have a very finely tuned scam antenna. I say one of the benefits of working with me is scam avoidance. If you inform me everything that you're going to be doing financially, you're never going to get caught up in a scam. And it's very easy if you're new into personal finance to get caught up with a flavor of the month that works out to it turns out not to be so good. So again, if you can spot the scams from the non-scams, and again, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger talk about this a lot. They've seen a lot of scams and folly over the years, Ponzi schemes, but it's very hard to decipher what is a real investment versus what's just been sort of constructed by someone. Next up, if you can control your behavior through all market cycles, fads, fears, euphoria, and Armageddon. Again, you don't need us. Sounds really easy just coming on, saying that sentence off the page. But we know, again, Pete, as professional advisors, all we're doing is trying to keep the clients on track, stick to the plan. There's always going to be a disaster that the world is shouting from the rooftops that's going to somehow impact your investments. That they said that about Brexit, they said that about Trump, and the reverse happened. Yeah. But they're not willing to stamp that in their mind as a historical audit. They're not saying, oh, they said the market was going to collapse because of Brexit and Trump, but it's rocketed. Therefore, I'm going to readjust how I think about information and markets. They're just waiting for the next crisis. That's what humans do. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on controlling people's behavior through all market cycles?
I think anybody that can control their behavior I remember in 2008, I was actually out for dinner with some friends and we were coming out of the restaurant and they had the daily papers there. And the headline was literally Armageddon with a red arrow crashing through the floor. The BBC graphics at the time were, animated red arrows going down and jagged down and crashing through the floor. I think if you can hold your nerve through that, then you're a better man than I am. I had a client, Q4 2018 was pretty dire for markets. And I had a client email me in sort of March, April when it had recovered. The markets had largely recovered, not fully, but largely recovered. And he said to me, look, I watched my portfolio decline by 10 or 12% and it was uncomfortable. If it had been 30%, I think I would have bailed. Now, that's actually unusually sort of self-insightful of that client, right? That's unusual, and actually sort of encouraged him and said, well, look, actually, that awareness is half the battle, but this is why you work with me, right? So that I can hold your hand through that. 2008-9, we didn't lose a single client. We had hardly any phone calls, actually, because we had banged on about this message, hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. Stay in your seat. You will not regret it. And we didn't lose a single client, and I take a lot of pride in that. But how many of those people might have bailed had they not had me preaching at them for months and years prior to, the worst financial crisis in living memory? So, it's hard. If you can stick to your guns, stay in your seat through that, then you don't need us. But most people won't. And hence, all people can benefit from that kind of ongoing coaching.
But in the cold light of day, they say that they will.
Yeah.
I am preparing myself for the -50. It's the business I'm in, and I will be absolutely. I'll act with equanimity, as Charlie Munger says, and smile, because that's how the investment markets work, and the winners who can smile through these times, are going to be a handful as such. The three greatest words that Nick Murray says that the financial advisor can say: "Don't do that." Don't do that.
Yeah.
Again, I say to clients, I'm going to offer you something called the "Don't Do That" service. What is that? You tell me I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to say, don't do that. The four greatest words: no, don't do that. So yeah, moving on our list. If you can, realize that you are the biggest wealth destroyer of all. Be quiet. Really? I am? Yeah. I thought fees were. No. Yeah. You thought fees were destructive.
Yeah.
You should see what stupidity does. You should see the compounding effects of stupidity and inaction. Wow. Exactly. You thought fees compounded. Stupidity and inaction, you should see that compound.
Isn't there a study? In America, is it the DARPA or DAR something?
Dalbar
study, which actually puts some numbers on that, isn't it? Which is terrifying.
Yeah, I think the average investor loses 60% of the market returns by acting.
So they only benefit from 40% of the upside because the other 60% is given up through bad behavior.
Yes. So, let's say very simplistically, the market over a long period of multi-decades returns 10%. The average investor only returns 4%. That's the behavior gap.
Okay.
Obviously, famous from Carl Richards, and a lot of people talk about that. The thing that's most concerning, I've realized in recent years, so misbehavior, let's say, costs 60%. Let's just call it 6%. The total returns from all of the great businesses in the world, the amount of profit that they pay out is, let's just say, it's around about sort of 3 to 4%, certainly in America. So all of the dividends that are produced are just, evaporated by misbehavior. So they don't even benefit. The misbehaving clients don't even benefit from compounding dividends over time because they're too busy blowing themselves up. Yeah. And that's a travesty. So that's it. So if you can do all of the things that we just mentioned, you don't need us. You can do this on your own. You don't, you can go via the no help option. What I offer is the help option. And again, some clients compare, well, okay, Andy, so your fees are X, but I can do it all online for Y. No, you're not comparing the same thing there. No. My investment fees are the same as the ones you're comparing over there. But over there is the no help option, and I'm the help option. It's like saying to a personal trainer, well, I can do it all over there for free, but you're charging me Well, of course I am, because over there's no help, and here there's help. I thought you wanted help.
Exactly. So, recapping then, we sort of working title for this conversation was a little bit of knowledge, and how, the incredible resource of the internet and all this free information, much of it good information, not all, but a lot of it is good information, can actually be counterproductive if there isn't an understanding of one's own limitations.
Yes.
Yeah, that a reasonable summary?
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Yes. And a lot of them are doing the right things, but collectively a little bit out of kilter.
Yeah.
So
I think there needs to be an understanding that there's a million things in flux at any one time. Personal circumstances being easily the biggest one. Life changes, transitions we call them, whether that's relationship change, job change, bereavement, redundancy. There's a million things that can happen at any time. And everything you set up yesterday can potentially need looking at in light of those changes. I always say to clients, really, there are at most really two things that you might need to change a properly set up financial wealth building engine. There are only really two reasons. One is legislation, which happens rarely, but that's the thing we have to be on top of. So 2015 pension changes, right? Those are a pretty big deal. Pensions freedoms, all that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of time, you spent a lot of time talking to clients off the back of that. What do those changes mean for you, Mr. Client? But easily the biggest reason, and this is the reason we actively keep in touch with our clients. Good advisors do that. Obviously, so many advisors promise it but don't deliver. But the reason is, I want to know what's going on with you, because you might not volunteer that information, Mr. Client. I'm going to ask the right questions so that I can say, okay, have you thought about this in the context of that change? And it's so important. But how is a layperson supposed to know that?
Great, mate. I've got a couple of points. So uncertainty is the certainty.
yeah, I love that. It's just,
again, that should be what everybody is thinking about. Next up, an expert is someone who's made all the mistakes. So again, we're being, we're exaggerating, this typical client that's contacted us, but they are early in their journey and they have many, many years to recover. So these people that are contacting us, they are sub 40, most of them. If they're in their 40s, that's maybe a bit of a rarity. So it's 30s and 40s, 30s mainly, that sort of age. So an expert, someone who's made all the mistakes, making mistakes young. So again, at the moment, you might think, I can do it myself, get myself in the mess, don't need you, blah, 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 blah. Mistake, become an expert. Okay, now we need you now. So that might be, something that is important. And that's basically where I am with it.
And I think I want to reiterate that this is coming from a place of sort of care and warmth and encouragement, but it's also a bit of a plea to not just discount the benefit advice based on an annual percentage number. I talk about levers that you can control. You need to concentrate and focus on the stuff you can control. So tax and costs you can control. But good financial planning, ongoing coaching isn't a cost. It's most certainly an investment which will repay itself countless times over.
We call our fee big mistake insurance. I mean, what is it worth?
Another example of you being able to sort of summarize things in a pithy one-liner, mate.
Just what am I paying you for? It's summarized big mistake insurance. Again, you can't put a price on it. The other thing on this, if we are having clients question our value, let's call it, do it on their own, they don't want to pay you, they'll dabble a bit here, help it there. And we've built up a lot of trust with these people. You've been in their ears for 5-6 years. I've been in some of their ears for year, 2 years. If we're having this challenge, the wider financial advisor community, which obviously deal in a different type of client and loads of people still need advice, it's only going to increase with people living longer and more money being available, less financial advisors. But it's interesting that they can't get over that hump with us. If I was listening to a personal training podcast, I was listening to it for 3 years, and I was like, I need a personal trainer. I'm not going to ring them up and go, just maybe thinking about using you, but a little bit on the fence on the fees. I'm going to be, let's do it.
Where do I sign?
Where do I sign? Anyway.
Okay, mate, we've been going an hour incredibly, but I hope that people get some value from this, and I'm sure that people will take it because, take it in the manner in which it's delivered, because they know us and they know that we're committed to putting out good stuff. So I'd love to know, folks listening, if you've got questions, you can just leave them at our respective show notes. This is going to go out both on Maven Money and on Meaningful Money, of course. So just get in touch, right? And just let us know what you think. Don't bombard us with emails. We get millions of them already. Maybe leave a comment on the show notes.
but if we can potentially stop someone going down the wrong financial rabbit hole, it's been worth us going through all these things and highlighting it. We are professionals. This is what we do. We are passionate that financial advice adds value. If I didn't think it adds value, I wouldn't even be in this business. No, sure. I'd be flogging a bloody dead horse. But I'm passionate about this, and so are you. There's a lot of stuff you can do on your own. Certainly get the building blocks in place, get things started, get the right mindset, research and reading, which is what you're doing. But to really achieve this, it's a bit more than it initially appears on the blogs and the podcasts.
For sure. Okay, my friends, the world is a better place for having you in it. I appreciate you.
You too, mate. We're all in your path, mate. Thanks a lot, everyone. And
cheers, folks. Okay, I've been thinking about this before and after the recorded conversation. I think I generally take a slightly softer line on this to Andy. I think that's true for most things. I think those of you that listen to Andy know that he's a man of absolutes. There's no black and white with Andy, and I think that's one of his core strengths, actually. He has an ability to nail down a subject to a key thought or two, express them simply, and then stick to them absolutely. I think it's a real gift that he's got. I absolutely agree that anybody can benefit from working with a financial advisor. I think the bulk of the benefit over time will be in the form of behavioral coaching to help you prevent poor decisions, bad mistakes. I also believe that, as I've always said on this show since day one, that you can go it alone. And I'm absolutely committed to giving you the tools to do that. But it's harder alone, no question about it. And the biggest issue by far is our own inability to be objective, I think, about our situation and about our own thought processes. We can talk ourselves into and out of pretty much anything. I know that in my sort of ongoing battle with my weight, it's my mental voice that is by far the biggest issue, right? I know what I have to do. It's just telling myself to do it and listening that's the issue. And I think that's the same with our financial progress. I guess the key lesson for me, as ever, is that we need to be intentional, laser focused. Don't be tempted to dabble, certainly not early on in your journey. Stick to the basics and go all in. Just focus. It's about constant repetition of some basic concepts, really basic actions, and then you'll be fine. That way you don't end up with bits everywhere, right, which basically don't amount to very much and certainly nothing cohesive. So sticking to the basics and continuing to do it, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, is what will serve you the best. I'm really interested in what you think, though, about my conversation with Andy. Hopefully you recognize the heart behind it. Andy and I are driven above all else to help people. We know that we're really good at what we do. We've got loads of happy clients over many, many years who have benefited from our expertise and input over the years, and we bring a lot of experience to that, of course. That's why we know that we can add value and why we work hard outside of office hours, let's face it, to produce our podcasts. This is a labor of love for both of us. We want everybody to experience financial freedom, and it pains us when we see people applying just a little bit of knowledge and getting themselves in a mess as a result. Okay, so I hope that you've benefited. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Let me know what you think. meaningfulmoney.tv/session336. You can comment there. Notes and links are there as well. Quick little review from Lee Hazard, setting the foundation to mastering your finances. Can't get enough of this podcast. So much quality information to get through. If you're looking to master your finances, then look no further. Lee Hazard, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. If you want to leave a review, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes if you're of an Apple persuasion. If not, then wherever you're listening to this, if you can leave a review, please do so. Okay, next time is the last of the in-between episodes, and I will definitely finally be talking to Tom Bagri of LifeSearch about the crucial subject of income protection. I'll be referencing Andy Hart again. It's like he keeps wheedling his way onto this show, isn't he? But I'll be referencing Andy because Andy talks about something called human capital and our ability to earn an income being our biggest asset by far. I've talked about that myself in the past as well. So I'm going to be talking with Tom Bagri of LifeSearch about the key insurance to protect that single biggest asset that we all have, our ability to earn an income. So that's next week. And after that, season 15 begins, which to say I'm excited is an understatement. All right. So, okay, that's it for this little bonus episode. Little. Not quite little, over an hour. Hope you enjoyed it, though. Thank you so much. meaningfulmoney.tv/session336 for any questions or comments. I'll see you next week when I'm talking to Tom Bagri. Cheers.